I am Sage Rountree. That is my real name, not just my yoga teacher handle. I'm the founder of Comfort Zone Yoga, where we're meeting right now. It's a virtual studio focused on yoga teacher development. And I am here to tell you what my go-to back pocket lesson plan is. We're going to talk about why you need a go-to back pocket lesson plan, why this one I'm presenting to you today really works very well for almost every student you might encounter, and how you can take this lesson plan and iterate it over time. So as we get rolling, I'd like to give you a little bit of context about the lenses through which I see pedagogy, the art of teaching yoga, and physiology, the way that bodies move in space. I spent many years coaching and competing in endurance sports. And something that I should have learned a lot sooner as a yoga teacher is that what we do in exercise training really applies to the practice of yoga asana. And for the decade or so that I was coaching endurance athletes to ultra marathons and 24-hour mountain bike races and triathlon and duathlon world championships, I would have been absolutely insane to give them a different workout every time. What I did instead is program their weeks with a series of key workouts that we would repeat over time. Week 1, they were getting to know the workouts. Week 2, they were building on them just a little bit, going a tiny bit faster or adding an extra interval or tacking on some more miles to the end of their longer workouts. Week 3, that pattern continued. And then in week 4, everything would step back and give them time to rest and recover, because that's where you actually get to let your body grow stronger as a result of the stress stimulus that you put on it in the workout. So for many years, and tell me in the chat if this is ringing true for you, for many years, I would do the complete opposite in planning my yoga class. I've been teaching yoga for over 22 years now, and for easily the first 15 or so, I would make the lesson plan fresh and different in every class. And I'm ashamed to admit that, because this was, yes, some of the same decade when I was also coaching endurance sports and programming people in this very systematic and periodized way. But for some reason, my brain figured, oh, yeah, thanks, Janelle. Same. I think this is a problem so many of us have. For way too long, I was thinking every class needs to be fresh and exciting and different. I think part of why that was that as a voracious student of yoga, I was hungry to learn more. And I always loved it when I went to class and it was something I hadn't seen before. But that was me taking my intermediate/expert mind and forgetting that many of the students we encounter are way more in beginner's mind. And these folks are served far more by the systematic repetition of a balanced sequence over time. That's how they get to improve in their, I almost said performance. We know the shapes are not a performance, but in their taking the shapes that we do in a yoga asana class. And more importantly, that's how students are able to get out of their heads and into their hearts and their bodies, which is what we want to deliver in our yoga classes. It's not to deliver some sexy choreography that's fresh and new every time. It's to guide our students toward better connection, toward yoga, toward union. And the way we do that is by not making it fresh and new and exciting every single time. The way we do that is by offering them consistency with a little sprinkle of variety, so that they can't check out and just tune out and go through the motions because it's so familiar, they don't even have to pay attention. But we also don't want them to be so in their heads thinking what goes where, what's right, what's left. Do I inhale when I do this? Do I exhale when I do this? Once they know that there's this consistency, then they can really drop in. Then they can have an embodied experience. Then they can have this sense of connection and yoga and union and freedom, moksha, liberation from the constant state of identifying with the fluctuations of the mind. So all of that to say, my background in endurance sports has informed this approach toward repeating with intention. If you have been in my world for a little while, you know I have two major methods/frameworks that I like to apply to thinking about teaching a yoga class. One is the S.E.R.V.E. method, and the other is 642. Let's talk a little bit about both of those. The S.E.R.V.E. method is an acronym, S-E.R.V.E. It stands for structure, with sound physiological reasons. And that's what we'll be doing and I'll be talking about as I demo part of the sequence and invite you to move with me in a minute. So we structure with purpose. The purpose is the 642, which we'll discuss in a second. Then the first E in S.E.R.V.E is experience. We need to experience the sequences as a student, just like a chef wouldn't send a dish out of his kitchen, her kitchen, their kitchen without having tasted it first. We need to experience the sequences that we're teaching so that our students get the best experience, so that we've really refined it as best we can. That's the first E in S.E.R.V.E. The R is repeat, repeat with purpose. Repeat because we know that it's the repetition that serves our students best. Then the V is the little bit of variety, vary with intention. Know why you're changing things and change enough to keep people paying attention and invested, but not so much that they feel overwhelmed. Then the second E in S.E.R.V.E is evolve your voice over time, which is going to happen naturally. You'll evolve your lesson plans over time. You'll evolve your cueing over time. You'll evolve your approach to teaching yoga and the styles that you enjoy teaching and the kind of students that you want to serve over time when you follow the first 4 steps of this S.E.R.V.E method. So that is one of our overarching principles here. I mentioned also that structuring with purpose means using the 642, and that's something we're going to spend the next 40 minutes or so feeling, thinking about, and chatting about. 642. 6 is for the 6 moves of the spine. That is forward and back, side to side, and round and round. And I'm going to do some demo in a minute where I show how all of that is part of this well-balanced lesson plan, like part of this complete breakfast. But that also is a way to think about the planes of movement. You might remember from your yoga teacher training the image of a body that was bisected in several planes. It was bisected like this, front to back. That's movement in the sagittal plane. That's spinal flexion and extension. That's also hip flexion and extension and knee extension and flexion. So that's movement in the sagittal plane. Then there is movement in the frontal plane. That's where the body is bisected from front to back. That is side bending or lateral flexion of the spine. It's abduction and adduction of the legs. Finally, there was a line, a field bisecting the body top to bottom, maybe about the waist is where it shows up on these charts. And that's movement in the transverse plane. That's where we twist. That's movement round and round. So we've got rotation of the spine, and we've also got external and internal rotation of the legs at the hips and of the arms at the shoulders. Hi, Colleen in Oregon. So great to have you here. So that is the 6, forward and back, side to side, round and round. And this might feel a little familiar. You may have been explicitly taught to take the body through these 6 moves of the spine as part of a warm-up sequence in your yoga class, or you may have just kind of clocked the fact that many yoga classes start with cat-cow, that's movement forward and back, and then side bend, maybe from child's pose, or if you're seated, a side bend like this, reaching up and over. That's movement in the frontal plane, and a twist of some kind, or threading the needle twist if you're starting on hands and knees. So that's the 6 moves of the spine. And this is an important part of your balanced diet, of your balanced movement diet, of your complete breakfast of movement, is you've got your spine moving in all these directions. I alluded as I walked you through that 6 to the movement of the legs at the hips, but I use 4 as almost a shorthand to really describe regions in the legs that we are moving. We are targeting the front and the back. That's 2 of the lines of the legs, and the inside and the outside. That's the other 2 lines of the legs. So when you hear me say 4 and 642, that's what I'm thinking about. We're thinking about the front, the back, the inside, and the outside. Then the 2 is for the 2 modes of the core, the 2 ways that you can use your muscles around your core. And for this example, we're thinking of the core as the entire spine and the pelvis and the relationship to each other. The 2 modes for your core to be in are stabilization, where all the muscles are co-contracting in order to keep you steady, and articulation. That's what we do in cat-cow. We are moving each of the vertebrae and the relationship to the pelvis in small bits sequentially. So a balanced movement meal, a balanced class lesson plan pays attention to the 6, to the 4, and to the 2, the 6 moves of the spine, the 4 lines of the legs, and the 2 core modes. Now you are in my universe, you understand what I mean when I talk about the S.E.R.V.E. method, when I talk about the 6-4-2. So if we are under agreement, as I hope we are, and if we aren't, I encourage you, I challenge you to try repeating your lesson plan for the next few weeks and then come back and tell me. Everybody who goes off and tries it comes back to me just laughing and saying, oh, I thought my students would rebel. Instead, they loved it or they didn't even notice. It can feel like a big jump. You may be attached a little bit in your ego to making things fresh and new every time, but that's not necessarily going to serve your students. So if we are under agreement that having this kind of repetition is really, really useful, then we can see how a lesson plan like this one I'm going to walk you through today will be a really good one to repeat. And this is my favorite go-to. I have taught it probably more than any other lesson plan. I taught it in December in the last month of my teaching my studio class of 22 years that I just ended. I taught it the weekend my father died. I taught it when I had a lot of change going on in my life, like moving house or taking a child to college. It's my go-to when I didn't feel like getting fresh and creative. And it has been proven to work with a broad range of students in a broad range of circumstances. And as you might know, if you've read my book, The Art of Yoga Sequencing, or been around my world a little bit, when I'm thinking about planning a class, I'm thinking in chunks. I'm thinking in modular units, basically 4 quarters. There's the centering and warm-up. That's the first quarter. There is the standing portion of class, if you're teaching a class that has standing. If you're teaching gentle yoga, maybe you do a whole nother warm-up series, or some gentle yoga, of course, is standing. Then there's the mat portion of class, which might subdivide into core-focused mat and hip-focused mat. And then there is the finishing portion of class, the wind down, the finishing poses, the final relaxation, and the closing. So that's your 4 quarters. And what you'll see when you look at the Greatest Hits lesson plan, when you follow along with the video there on the page I shared with you in the chat, is that this roughly applies here. We've got a few modules to the list. In fact, they show up as ingredients on the lesson plan when you look at it. So there is the 6 moves of the spine, supine one leg. That's your warm-up chunk. Then there is the modified sun salutations and tree pose chunk. That's your standing chunk. Then you come down to the mat and you can do many different things, even within the confines of this Greatest Hits lesson plan. You can do a head to knee chunk. You can do a tree pose, like kind of core segment chunk. Then you can do a belly down, 6 moves of the spine prone one leg chunk as kind of your hip work, your spine work low to the mat and moving you into your finishing and closing. So this is a modular lesson plan. And what's so great about thinking in this modular approach, it's kind of like building a capsule wardrobe. You can mix and match. So depending on your student population, you might be making some changes. You might not want to start lying down on the back. You might swap in a seated warm-up instead, or a standing warm-up if you teach a 6 a.m. class. Everything can be kind of flipped in and out according to the needs of your students, the time of day, the equipment you have available, even the temperature in the studio. If it's but it turns out the heater was broken and it's very cold, you may not want to start students down on their back. You could instead flip in a standing chunk. By the way, if you are interested in learning more about what these chunks could be, here in Comfort Zone Yoga, you have access to free access to my sequence demo library that demonstrates a lot of different chunks for you. And I'll invite you to join the Prep Station, which is my lesson planning membership for yoga teachers, where you'll get access to a huge amount of these, including follow along videos, because remember, it's so important that you experience these as a student yourself. You can also, of course, read my book, The Art of Yoga Sequencing. So let's talk about the Greatest Hits lesson plan in particular, and why this lesson plan is my favorite, is my go-to. It's because it works for the broadest range of people. There is very little up and down in this lesson plan. Whereas if you are sequencing around a vinyasa model where you always start with sun A's and sun B's, That's a whole lot of up and down, a whole lot of positional shifting. And this can become pretty rough on students who have back pain, who have blood pressure issues, who have vertigo issues. The sequence is also rather hands-free. There's not no time with hands on the floor, but it is a reduced amount of time with hands on the floor. And that's really nice for meeting your beginner students where they are. You might remember from your first months or years of yoga practice how long it took for your wrists to adapt. It's a lot to do a ton of chaturangas or even a ton of downward facing dog or even a lot of table pose in class. So this sequence, this lesson plan very deliberately minimizes the amount of time that folks have their hands down on the floor. That makes it far more adaptable. We have a featured shape, and note that I'm calling it a featured shape, not a peak pose. Our featured shape in the Greatest Hits lesson plan is side bending tree, which is why sometimes you'll hear me refer to it as a side bending tree lesson plan or crooked tree lesson plan. So that is your tree pose with lateral flexion toward the side of the bent leg. I'll be demoing it and I'll invite you to follow along with me in a moment. That shape we will see over the course of the lesson plan in various relationships to gravity. You'll see it down on your back. You'll see it from hands and knees. You'll see it from standing. You'll see it from down on your belly. And that is a very special experience because when you take this shape from down on your belly in particular, after having done the bulk of the work of the practice, the very muscles that had to be engaging and contracting concentrically as you did this side bending tree shape on one leg, then get a chance to go to the shortened position, but without being engaged. So they get to go slack. And that's a magical experience for your muscles. It gives them a time to kind of get into recovery mode, to almost neurologically reprogram and to notice what it feels like to be short and slack without having to clench, without having to engage. So we'll explore that when we get onto the mat in a moment here too. I also want to point out that as part of being hands-free, there's definitely no downward facing dog in the sequence. Almost no hands time and definitely no downward facing dog. Y'all, I love a downward facing dog. It's a great shape. I also don't teach it very much. I practice it plenty on my own, but I find that when you sequence your flow classes in particular around a step forward from downward facing dog, you're creating a negative experience for many of your students. I think you've probably seen this in your class where you invite people to inhale, raise your leg, exhale, step your foot between your hands. And half the room, their foot doesn't naturally go comfortably between their hands without the use of blocks or reaching back and picking the leg up and setting it forward. So we're going to work around that instead of coming to down dog and then stepping forward into the crescent lunge that we'll be doing. We will start at the top of the mat and step back. And that gives room for a wide range of people to have fun. Those who want to keep things sweeter, more mellow, they can simply drag their foot back in space. Those who want to make this more challenging can almost float back through a warrior three to set their foot down. And all of these people can be together in the same room at the same time, on the same breath rhythm, but having their own personally appropriate experiences, working at the level of challenge that lets them feel like they're just pushing the boundaries of their comfort zone into their growth zone, but they aren't going into total nervous system overload, fight or flight response. So these are the reasons why I think it's such a great lesson plan. Now, if you have any questions, all right, no questions yet in the Q&A. If you have questions, remember, pop them in the Q&A. It's that question mark button at the bottom. I'm going to switch cameras and get onto my mat. If you are in a place where you can follow along, I invite you to follow along with me. You do not need to have a mat at all for this sequence. I set mine up because my feet are tender. Let me know if you can't hear me. Sometimes when things switch, the audio gets a little bit weird, so I'll have my eye on the chat. But what you'll see when you follow along with the full video is that this sequence starts down on the ground. I'm not going to do that because you won't get the best view, and I want you to follow along with the video. But I'll point out, got some knees in toward the chest, extension of the knee, then we extend at the hip, we do some circles. We come out into a reclining version of tree pose and even into the side bending tree pose down on the back. And that feels fantastic. It's a wonderful warm up. It's also a really good end of class sequence to do. We come across the body into a twist and we do that on the other side. So you'll be hitting the 6 and the 4 and the 2 when you follow along with that 6 moves of the spine supine one leg warm up. Then I would bring students up to standing and we'd stand at the front of the mat. So if you have some room behind you, feel free to come along with me or just watch and think about how you can adapt this for your students. Almost to give people the cue that this is going to be a sun salutation like experience, I would have them inhale, lift their arms, and exhale, lower their arms for several breaths. I like to say, try to do it different every time. So inhale, lower your arms, exhale, lower your arms, but see if you can let the inhale and the exhale look and feel different every time. This is one way you can really vary stuff week to week is you could give them some ideas of ways that they could do inhales to lift and exhales to lower slightly different every time. And remember, they don't have to be symmetrical. That could be an inhale to lift and an exhale to lower. So we play with that. Then we'll inhale, lift our arms up. And as you exhale, you could dive forward, almost like you're making a question mark shape with your body to bring your hands down to your thighs. Now we have spinal flexion. Keep the bend in your knees, keep your hands on your thighs. When your breath next comes in, roll into a standing version of cow pose. Lift your tailbone, lift your face. As you breathe out, tuck into a standing version of cat pose and keep going back and forth. Inhale to arch and exhale to round. Fantastic yoga snack here just to do some standing cat and cow in the middle of your day. Now, there are two ways to come up from here. If your population has spines that like it, you could roll up, stacking your vertebrae one by one. If you're teaching a class that's specific for osteoporosis, osteopenia, or has more seniors, you might ask folks to engage their back muscles. So now the spine is extended, and just to lever up from the hips, you could even take hands to hips to kind of feel that. Either one is perfectly valid. Let's start to make this asymmetrical. Inhale, lift your arms up. As you exhale, dive your way down, hands come to your thighs, tuck your chin. As you inhale, arch your back, take both hands to your right leg, pick up your left heel, drag the ball of your left foot back in space. You can keep the ball of your foot up or have it down, your call. Take your hands to your hips and lean your shoulders back over them. Then free your left hand to dangle down by your side. As you inhale, sweep your arm up, your thumb faces back. As you exhale, reach your hand forward, down, and back behind you. Your pinky lifts up. Do a few of these. We're waking up the left shoulder. And I'll point out, just as we think about planes of movement, when your arm is up, your shoulder's an external rotation. When your arm is down, your shoulder's an internal rotation. Next time your left arm is lifting, lift your right arm to come parallel to it. There you're in crescent lunge or warrior one, depending on the choice that you have made with your heel. As you next come to a breath out, take your hands down to your right thigh. And as you breathe in, pull your left leg alongside your right. Both knees are bent, hands on their respective knees. Come to cat-cow or any kind of squirming that calls to you. You could be shifting side to side, looking back over your shoulder. Notice how then we're layering in some movement in the transverse plane, rotation. In a mixed levels class, you might give an idea or two of what folks could be doing at this point and then let everybody else do their own thing. You might see some squatting, some forward folding. Then we'll give the call to come all the way back up in your own time, either through a roll up or extended spine, and exhale to reset. Stand and breathe. Notice the difference, right and left, your left shoulder and your right shoulder, left hip, right hip. Let's do the other side. Inhale, lift your arms up in some way that feels good. And as you exhale, dive on down to take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, arch your back. Exhale, round your back. Then inhale, arch your back, take your hands over to your left knee, pick up the heel of your right foot, drag the ball of your right foot back. Heel could stay up or down. Inhale, hands to hips. Exhale, lower your right hand down alongside your right hip. And about 5 times. Mobilize through your shoulder. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. As you do, I'll point out that this choice of what you've done with your back leg is going to give you different flavors. When I have my right heel down, I feel a delicious calf stretch. When I spin up to the ball of my right foot, I feel more of the stretch in the front of my right hip, and I feel more of a balance challenge. Again, this is a way that we can have multi-levels in the same room at the same time. Next time your right arm comes up, sweep your left arm up alongside it. There's your crescent or your warrior one. Exhale, hands down to your front thigh. Inhale, back leg comes forward. Exhale, hands to knees. Do whatever you like. Notice how this step back lets everybody go to their own individual stance instead of trying to get everybody's foot forward between their hands. In the next breath or so, lift all the way up and exhale. Reset. Have a breath in and a breath out. We'll add on. Inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale, come on down. Inhale, arch your back, move your hands to the right, pick up your left foot. Maybe all of your left foot comes up now. Exhale, ball or all of the foot down. Inhale, hands to your hips. Exhale, lower your left hand down. Inhale, lift your arm up, thumb faces back. As you exhale, lean to your right, left hand over right shoulder. Inhale, left hand over left shoulder. Exhale, left hand over right shoulder. Take this pulse a few times more. I'm going to give you a front view so you can see what this might look like. It's a little movement, but it feels pretty destabilizing. We're certainly working balance here. Now, the next time that you're leaning over to your right, stay there. You could bend your left elbow, take your hand to the top or the back of your head for more of a stretch through your lats and underarm. You could keep your right hand on your hip or dangling down, or take it behind your back. Maybe the back of your hand to the small of your back. Maybe you start to work toward cow face arms. That's as far as I'm going to get here right now. This is another way that you can layer in options for the multi-levels that you have in your room. Notice that this is side bending tree. It's just a two-leg version of it. As you next breathe in, free your arms, square off. And as you exhale, come forward and down with your hands. As you inhale, come forward with your left foot and give yourself a couple breaths to do whatever. This could be a dangling forward fold, hands into your elbows, swinging side to side. This could be dropping into a squat. This could be coming up and fixing your hair and checking the chat, or whatever you need to do. And we'll pick this up by returning back through the bent knees and inhaling to lift all the way up. Exhale, reset. Check in again. Full breath in and a full breath out. Other side. We'll inhale to lift the arms and exhale to lower it. Inhale, arch your back, take your hands to the left, pick up your right foot. Maybe it reaches back slowly before it comes down, some or all of the foot. Inhale, hands to hips, shoulders back. Exhale, right hand dangles. Inhale, right hand over your right shoulder. Exhale, right hand over your left shoulder. Let's pulse that. Inhale to square off and exhale to lean over. Notice that there may be a tendency for your front knee to counterbalance. That's your body being clever. See if you can fight that and try to hold everything from your waist down pretty steady in space. Next time you are leaning to the left, stay and make choices that work for you on this side. Maybe you keep your hands as is. Maybe your left hand is on your hip just to keep you aware of where you are in space. Or perhaps you're bending your right elbow, fingertips to your head or your collar. Perhaps you're bending your left elbow, fingertips might start to draw closer together. These cow face arms are usually pretty different between the two sides. Make a choice that works for you. Take another full breath. Notice that in this side bending tree, we are doing the featured shape, not the peak pose, but the featured shape, just with 2 feet down. As we breathe in, let's lift our arms up. Exhale, take your hands to your knee. Inhale, pull your feet parallel. And exhale, give yourself whatever. Take a few breaths. As you take a few breaths, remember the model of the 6-4-2. What have we covered so far? We've gone forward and back with the spine and the legs. We've taken the side bend with the spine, but we haven't really worked the inside-outside line of the legs specifically, and we haven't done a twist. So that's what's coming next as we go through one more round on each side. Use an inhale to lift everything up and an exhale to reset. Take a full breath in and out. Your next breath in, arms up. Your next breath out, hands down. Round, tuck. Inhale, arch, hands go to the right, left leg comes up. Exhale, ball or all of the foot down. Inhale, hands to your hips, shoulders over them. Exhale, free your left hand. Inhale, sweep your left hand over your left shoulder. Exhale, sweep your left hand over your right shoulder. Now inhale, come back up, both arms up. And as you exhale, pivot, lift onto the ball of your left foot, drop back into this kind of tall skandasana squat. Your right toes could stay down or lift up. You may have reoriented them, and that's fine too. All of a sudden, we've got an inner outer line of the legs experience. And here's where we can twist by taking right hand to left knee. I realize you are kind of on a different side than I am. Lift your left hand up. And here we've got the rotation and the inner outer line of the legs. This is something that if your class liked, you could try pulsing between a crescent lunge and a twist. A crescent lunge and a twist, or you can simply come here and hold. Let's all meet back up in the crescent lunge. Then we'll take hands to right knee. Left foot comes forward. Take 3 breaths for whatever your body wants now. Next breath in, lift all the way up. Next breath out, reset. We'll finish on the other side. With your next in, lift up. And with your next breath out, roll on down. Hands come to the left leg. Inhale, right leg lifts up. And exhale, it steps back a little or a lot, heel up or heel down. Inhale, hands to hips. Exhale, right hand down. Inhale, right hand over right shoulder. Exhale, right hand over left shoulder. Now, as we inhale, we'll come up onto the ball of the right foot, both arms lift, and we'll exhale to come into this single leg side lateral lunge. Forgive the back view. You could lift your arm up and you could stay exactly here, or you could try pulsing a few times. So an inhale, big sweep forward and up to crescent, and an exhale to rotate down. Inhale, big sweep up, feel the inner outer line of the legs getting some work, and rotation through the spine. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Let's inhale, come up. And exhale, take your hands down to your left thigh. Inhale, pull your right foot forward. And exhale, tuck, round, standing forward fold, whatever feels good to you. That is my modified version of sun salutations. No downward facing dog, totally hands-free, but maybe because I've got my fire on in the fireplace, kind of heating, kind of spicy. In that 2-leg stance, we have the side bending tree pose. Let's do the side bending tree pose right here in space. Let's see. You were standing on your right leg to start. I'll be your mirror now. Take your weight into your right leg, bend your left knee, come into any version of tree pose that suits you. This is valid. This is totally valid. You could also creep up higher. You could reach down and help your leg come up higher. Arms are the branches of the tree. In class, I usually teach this first. We'll do 1 round on each side, and then we come into the side bend. Let's go right there, though. You could take the back of your left hand onto the top of your left thigh. Reach your right arm over first your right shoulder, and then your left shoulder. I like back of the hand here so that I'm not pressing down very much. You could bend your top elbow, hold your head, a little bit more of a stretch down the right side. You could come up through an inhale and exhale, let it go. Try the other side. Your left leg is your trunk. Your right leg is the major limb of the tree. This could be heel against your inner ankle, could be arch of your foot against your calf. Arms are here to help you with balance. Always so different on one side than the other. If you'd like to do the side bend, take the back of your right hand down the top of your right thigh. First, your left hand comes over your left shoulder, and then maybe over your right shoulder. You could look forward, you could look down to make this a little sweeter. You could look up for things to be spicier, even try to see your fingers. You could try closing your eyes. Take another breath. Then you can use the inhale to come up and the exhale to step down, shake things off. If you were going to go all in on the 6-4-2, at this point, I would have you do some kind of twist. a standing balance twist. Like, for example, if you were taking a tree pose, maybe you would lean. What if you came out and took your right hand to your left knee and your left hand to your right, what side is this? Left hand to left hip for y'all. You could stay just like that, or you could try to reach out. And you could do the same on the other side. That way we've got the inner, the outer line of the legs, and the side bend and the twist all in the same spot. I'd like to show you just a few more things if you'd like to come along down to the mat. I'll point out that for your mat core sequence, you can do this side bending tree. You'll just do it on your knee. Here's where blocks can be really useful depending on the relationship between the length of your thigh bone and the length of your arms. I like to kick my right foot back off the side of the mat, and I'll swing my left foot back. Here is a tree pose, and here is a side bending tree pose. All kinds of places you could go from here. Come forward and up. You could come around. Another way to do a tree pose is like that, either forward, back, or on top of your leg. So we can do that on either side just so that you feel even. Think about how this might fit in for your unique student population. Maybe this is as far as you go. Maybe they're lifting up. Maybe they're reaching back. Or maybe they're doing this alternative tree with the foot in front or behind or on top of the bottom leg. As you feel like you had a little bit of play there, come on down to your belly for a moment. And let's just feel this shape one more time. I want to return to that idea of short and slack muscles. Come to Sphinx. Elbows under your shoulders, maybe your forearms are parallel to each other. I'm going to bend my left knee so you can see this better. And I'm hiking it up to about hip height. Then I'm walking my elbows toward the left until I am in the side bending tree again. This is the kind of spicier version of it. This is a way to get us over into the side bend, and then we can lie down, which feels so, so sweet. So your bent leg could be in a tree pose with your foot facing in towards your leg, or in a frog pose with your foot facing back. It's so lovely. When I teach this in class, we're staying here for like 2 or 3 minutes. The muscles that had to work, you can keep going. The muscles that had to work there, the hip flexors that pull your leg up, bring it out to the side, right here. The hip rotators deep in your seat that externally rotate your leg, and your quadratus lumborum and obliques that help you into the side bend. All of them had to do a lot of work when you were practicing your standing tree a moment ago. They get to go slack now. Let's slowly change sides. Extend your leg back and hike your right leg up. Bring yourself up to a Sphinx pose so you can walk your hands over to the right. Then you can melt on down and have a few breaths there. As you do, imagine this. I'll show you. Bending toward the camera. You don't need to do this, but imagine that the next thing you could do from this shape is a threading the needle style twist. And now we've got the spinal rotation as well. Inner outer line of this top leg for more, you could straighten it. Front back line of the bottom leg for more, you could bend it. When I teach this sequence, I teach it over the course of 4 weeks or more. I might, at some point, swap this belly down, 6 moves of the spine prone one leg, and the opening supine, spine down, 6 moves of the spine one leg, so that the warm-up becomes the finishing and the finishing becomes the warm-up. Okay, now I am eager to hear what kind of students you are teaching and to workshop with you how we could change things for your students. So I'm coming to the Q&A. Alexia, great question. Yes, the definition of the S.E.R.V.E. method is in the community, and it's also a YouTube playlist. I will link to it underneath this when I send out the replay. But yes, there is a whole course about the S.E.R.V.E. method in Finding Your Voice, I think is the one. So that is a fantastic question. Anybody else with a question, come on through to the question sign and ask it. I would love to know. Okay, so it looks like everybody is teaching beginner to medium level of experience. Great. I think this is the perfect sequence for that community. The beginners, of course, are going to benefit especially from the repetition week in and week out. As you then see that folks are feeling comfortable with the sequence and happy doing it, you can then start to layer in other standing poses. In fact, let me just give you a few ideas, and this is for the more intermediate of the beginner to intermediate pathway. But another way to put a twist in, you might remember we were here and coming into this twist. Another way to put a twist in, twist toward the camera, is to twist towards your front leg. You could do some like almost air guitar circles here. From there, you could also tip forward. So now we've layered in two more poses. We've got a twisting crescent lunge, and we've got this lean forward, which puts more load into the outer line of the leg. That's something that you could start to put in. You could also get kind of frisky and start to play from there with a balance on the back leg. There's nothing that says you need to keep coming back to the front of the mat. You can keep putting things in. For the more beginner population, as we play with the step back, I would have them just drag the foot back, foot along the floor. Remember, heel down is going to make this a little bit more supportive. Heel up is going to make this slightly more balance oriented. If you're working with the intermediate part of your beginner to intermediate population, you could really reach. And when they're coming forward, you could give them a pause before they lower. And I'll point out that this position with the hand supported is really just a sweeter way of practicing Utkatasana, your chair pose. As you see this sequence written up for you on the lesson plan itself, you'll notice that the 6 moves of the spine segments are really very gentle and sweet. So you can keep them gentle and sweet. You can spice them up just a little bit by adding more repetitions or slightly deeper holds. If you remember when I was down on my belly and showing the thread the needle twist from the tree frog pose, the side bending tree pose on your belly, I said for the top leg that was bent, you can increase the intensity by straightening it. And for the bottom leg that was straight, you can increase the intensity by bending it. So those are some ways that you can spice up or down in your class. I am here for any questions. I'm going to have another sip of water. The best way to come up with questions is to practice this, is to go for the first E in the S.E.R.V.E. method and experience this as a student, which is why I give you a full follow along video on the lesson plan itself. I'd love for you to come through, practice it, think through how you might teach it, what feels especially good to you, what might remind you of things that you had to learn to do in your yoga practice, either to establish better balance in a single leg standing balance pose or to relax in the things that are meant to be relaxing. You could also think about layering in a theme. As you might know, I co-wrote 2 books on theming yoga classes, Teaching Yoga Beyond the Poses and Teaching Yoga Beyond the Poses, Volume 2. And there would be a whole lot of opportunity for themes related to trees. Christmas trees, yes. Palm trees are very resilient in the coastal climes because they get hit with hurricanes, and it's their ability to bend without breaking that makes them so resilient. That's a beautiful theme. So this would be something that you could mention at the start of class and then weave through when you get to the standing 2-leg balance pose, where we were taking the side bend from the crescent lunge. You could invite your students to let their branches wave like a tree in the wind, or to look up, because that looking up is purposefully destabilizing, lifting the drishti, makes it harder to balance. And you can remind folks that it's that ability to bend and not break. Further along those lines, you could say that that softness and that sukha, that sweetness, that mobility, that flexibility is actually a great strength. The theme of strength and flexibility, or stability and mobility, stira and sukha, effort and ease, is always a great one to pull into your yoga classes. Then, if you are doing themes related to the seasons, as the leaves change, as they first sprout here in North American spring, hopefully coming soon. In fact, I think I might see a few little buds on the tree outside my window. And then as they change later on, they will lend themselves really nicely to themes about growth and how there's a little seed that can grow into something big, and then about letting go in the fall. Oh, sorry, Christine. I may not have the best signal. Let's see, Lorelei, I'm reading your question. I've had some folks who are so new to physical movement that even the most basic movements are tough. Any advice on how to help include the newest folks who might have the most to gain? Always just dialing things back, feet closer to the floor, a bigger bend in the elbows, and repetition. Repetition, 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 and giving them a home base where they could hang out while the other people in the room would then move a little bit more. So the classic example, of course, in a vinyasa class would be putting folks into child's pose while everybody else does one more. But there's like standing or bringing hands to your thighs and doing that squirming from cat and cow. You could have folks do that while everybody else in the room is moving a little bit better. Christine asks, would I avoid doing any sun A? No, there's nothing wrong with sun salutations. Sun salutations are great. It's just that for the most inclusive class, having less time with hands on the floor and less stepping forward, which you wouldn't see so much in a sun A unless you were like kind of lingering in the lunge, is going to be more inclusive for everybody. But it all depends, right? A message that you've probably heard me say if you've been around me for any time is we're always looking for that middle path between over planning and winging it in class. So it's good to be prepared for there to be beginners in the room. But if you show up and it's all regulars and you know that they are feeling frisky and ready for something more, knock yourself out. You've got to be responsive in the moment. And this, friends, is the real upside of teaching a lesson plan on repeat for 4 months or 4 months. Go for it, 4 weeks or more, is that you get out of your own head. It's not just that the students get to really drop into their bodies, it's that you get to know what comes next. You don't have to think about it. You're not checking your notes. Nothing wrong with bringing notes. I would much rather have a teacher who was prepared than one who came in and was like, what's the vibe today? But you get to read the vibe when you have repeated the lesson plan enough that you're not worried about cueing, you're not worried about what comes next, and your students know it, so they get to follow along in their own way. That's how you can then respond. That's how you can wing it more. That's how you can say like, oh, they're ready for more today, or oh, they look really tired today. May, I'm so glad that this feels like a good sequence for your students. I agree. I think it can be quite challenging if you want it to be. Like I said, maybe it's just because I was doing it in front of the fireplace and I needed to drink some water, but that got me pretty warm. And there are always little flourishes that you can add on. One thing that we need to consider as we're thinking about mixed level classes is how can we include almost everybody in the room at the same time? And we get hung up on those advanced students and thinking we need to please the advanced students in order to keep them coming back to our class. But y'all, your advanced students know what to do. Your advanced students recognize the beauty in simplicity. So don't worry about that. Teach to the middle of the bell curve and the 20% on either end, the advanced and the beginners, they will get along. You've got to serve the majority of people who are in the room. The advanced folks, you can sell them a private lesson. The beginners, you can sell them a private lesson too, or a beginner series. Colleen has a great question. Do I think with older students standing is less problematic than being on hands and knees? I'm worried about balance, may need a chair for stability. Great question. It's like we come up over that bell curve, and yeah, as we get to the more advanced age, it can be true. You may want to be doing this close to the wall. You may want to be doing it at a chair so your hand can go on the chair back or even in a chair. And I think there would be ways to adapt this sequence to chair yoga. That's what I think is so special about this 642 approach and just thinking in terms of planes of movement and body regions and a modular approach to sequencing is that we can see the deep structures, the deep syntax structure, and then can take that and adapt it to any kind of setup. Uh, Alexia, would I say 2 cues for each transition and pose and 2 variations to lessen or increase intensity? I think that's a really good rule of thumb. 2 or maybe 3, and it totally depends on the room. If you think everybody is looking happy, people aren't looking around to see where you are and how you can help them after 2 versions, that's great. I do think there's a physiological principle called the principle of diminishing returns. You know it as like more is not always more. More variations is not always better. More variations can quickly overwhelm your students, and it feels like, oh, too many options. I don't know which one to choose. Or people want to taste everything on the buffet, so then they wind up just like tasting everything and they never got to really enjoy any of it because they were so focused on like, which one do I want? So I think 2 is a really good rule of thumb, maybe 3. But after 3, I think unless you can really tell that your students need more variation, less is more. Don't want to hit that level of diminishing returns. May asks, oh, such a good question. How much time would I spend in the closing poses? As much as possible. The world is a lot right now. The world is always a lot, but it's especially a lot right here in 2026. So let's give them more downtime, especially if we did build some heat in the standing portion. I do roughly think of it, if I'm teaching an hour-long class, I do roughly think of it in terms of quarters. So we want to be out of the warm-up section by about 15 minutes in, coming down toward the floor by about 30 minutes in, moving out of the floor stuff and into more of the finishing stuff by about 45 minutes in. And then that gives us plenty of time to work back from the end, knowing that from the point where I get my students seated, I want 2 minutes so that I can end class on time, which is a courtesy to both the students and to the next teacher, and to yourself to get your time back and not to run over. So you want 2 minutes, and then in a 60-minute class, the rule of thumb, 1 to 10, 6 minutes of shavasana, 6 minutes of final relaxation. So now we have 8 minutes, which means the finishing poses before shavasana between 45 minutes and let's see, 52 minutes. That gives us 6 or 7 minutes for the rolling around on the floor stuff that feels so good. Here is another place where consistency is definitely your friend. Consistency over time of repeating the same lesson plan, but also consistency in your opening and in your closing. It gives a very steady and stable container to the class that lets your students drop in. When you open your class in almost exactly the same cadence and language every time, your students really know that they've arrived. That's why most TV shows use the same introduction season over season. Maybe they make little tweaks season to season, but in general, TV shows don't have like a cold open, a different song every time. They give you the same opening credits. Similarly, the same closing credits at the end with only minor variations. And each of these is really soothing to the nervous system. Okay, if anybody has any more questions, it's not too late to ask. I'm going to give you a few next steps. If you look in the chat or at the video description, if you're watching this on replay, come to the side bending tree lesson plan, greatest hits lesson plan, follow along, experience it yourself as a student. This is the S.E.R.V.E method. I have structured it for you. Now you get to experience it as a student. And if that's as far as your relationship with this lesson plan goes, great. I think that's fantastic. You got to feed yourself, which is fantastic. But then I encourage you to choose a class where you're going to repeat this over several weeks, maybe 4 weeks in a row. Then you can start to add in some variations over time. There are a few ideas on the lesson plan as I wrote it up for you. And if you can go through those steps, you are going to evolve and grow as a teacher in ways that you can't even imagine right now, because you will begin to trust yourself. You'll begin to trust the importance of repetition. And your students are going to learn to trust themselves too, to know what shape comes next, to know that you are trustable, that you are trustworthy, that you're going to hold space for them and not always be pulling the rug out from under them with something new and exciting that you saw on Instagram or Pinterest. So consistency, then variety, not variety with occasional consistency, is going to make everything easier, both for your students and for you. Now, y'all, if you want to do more of the complete Greatest Hits lesson plan with me, I'm teaching it live in March. The first 4 Mondays in March 2026, I am teaching it at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be live right here in a format like this, except I'll be able to see you. So if you want to have your camera on, you can. And then we will get a little different flavor week in and week out. So we will progress over time to make it a little bit more complicated. And then I'll also do a little bit of this iterating and swapping around in ways that I think will really, really feel good for you as a student. There is nothing that's going to level up your teaching more than your continued studenthood. It is the sine qua non, the without which nothing of your teaching. And if you're ever feeling like you're hitting burnout as a teacher, I think this is the number one patch that you can slap on, is to turn back to your own practice and turn back to your own studenthood. There's huge value in self-practice, but there's also a lot of value in practice led by a teacher and in the company of others. And that's what we'll do together in March. It's free for Prep Station members. So the Prep Station membership is $39 a month. And it's also included with my bigger ticket program called the Art of Yoga Sequencing, or Mastering the Art of Yoga Sequencing, a mentorship membership. I'm pasting the Prep Station link here for you in the chat. So if you are in that bigger program, you get the Prep Station as part of it. And if that goes well, I may start to offer these as one-offs, but for now, it's just part of the Prep Station. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. If you enjoyed this, I will look forward to seeing you in those live classes. I will look forward to seeing you on next month's free call in Comfort Zone Conversations. It is on newsletter. So we're going in a very different approach. This is kind of a business-oriented, like how to get started with your newsletter, how to collect email addresses, how to write your newsletter, how to stay consistent, and how to view even writing your newsletter as an act of service to your students, which is what we're all here for. Thank you so much for spending an hour with me. I will see you next time.